All set? Okay. Can I have your attention, please? We'll be starting up shortly. Welcome to the Lowell Planning Board for December 2nd, 2024. The first matter on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of November 18th, 2024. Any of the board members have any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Second the motion.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. The minutes have been approved. Next matter on the agenda is 1733 Middlesex Street, site plan revision. Tran Management LLC has applied to the Lowell Planning Board to revise their site plan review approval at the above address. On June 17, 24, the applicant was granted approval to expand the rear parking area. The applicant is now proposing to revise the site plan by constructing an addition to the existing building. The subject property is located in the Regional Retail Zoning District. The proposal requires site plan review approval from the Lowell Planning Board per section 11.4.2 of the Lowell zoning ordinance. At the last meeting, we heard from the applicant, that was back on November 18th, and they were proposed trying to find some additional parking. We received a letter from the attorney Kevin Murphy's office today indicating that they were still trying to further up some more of the parking and requested that we continue the matter to January 6th, 2025, so they can try to propose more parking before they come back before the planning board. So, anybody have any objections to the continuance to January 6th?
Mr. Chairman, is there anybody here that wishes to speak?
Is there anybody here for the Middlesex Street project? Middlesex Street?
Matt Hammer, Lamplex Engineering, 10 George Street, Lowell. I'm just here if there's any questions at all.
Okay. But yes, they requested January 6th, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we continue the matter to January 6th, 2025, as requested by the applicant.
Second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So that motion carries. That's continued to January 6th. So next matter is 10 Technology Drive. So the problem we have with Zoom, I believe, is the traffic engineer for 10 Technology Drive. So whichever way Technology Drive wants to go forward, you want to go forward without the engineer, or do you want the engineer to call in and you can put on the microphone and we can hear from there? Or if you'd like to have a different date or go without them, before I read the note, well, I'll read the notice first, then I'll hear from you, okay? Thank you. 10 Technology Drive, site plan review. Bowl of Engineering, on behalf of Spectrum Health Systems, has applied to the Lowell Planning Board to convert the use of the existing building at the above address to the Medical Services and Business Education Center. The property is located at the Office Park Zoning District. The project requires site plan review approval from the Planning Board under section 11.4.2. So as indicated, I believe we can't get I think it was the traffic engineer on through the Zoom, so may we hear from the applicant?
Yes, for the record, Nick Dewhurst with Bowler Engineering, civil engineer on the project. With me tonight is, as you mentioned, Robert Michaud with MDM Transportation Consultants. We understand there's some technical difficulties. Sounds like we do have him on the phone. If there are any traffic related comments that come up, okay, he can address those. Also with me tonight is Frank Height with Spectrum Health Systems and Lorleen Gannon with Vinfen Corporation. So as you mentioned, the site is 10 Technology Drive. It's a 5.52 acre parcel. It's currently comprised of an existing 32,000 square foot, 2-story office building. It's located within the Office Research Park Zoning District, and Vinfen and Spectrum are proposing, the project is mostly related to the interior fit out of the existing building with some relatively minor site improvements. Vinfen and Spectrum obtained a zoning determination with the zoning enforcement officer and building commissioner in September of this year. and confirmed that the proposed use is an allowed use, hence why we're here for site plan review, but we do not need to go in front of the zoning board of approval. So as I mentioned, the majority of the proposed improvements are really isolated to the interior of the building, but focusing on the exterior improvements, they are, as I mentioned, relatively minor. They're really associated with creating accessible entrances and parking routes from the existing parking area to the proposed VinFen and Spectrum entrances. So Spectrum's main entrance is actually kind of plan south, which is the southwesterly side of the building. It's a little tough to see on the screen, but sort of that darker shaded area is where we're proposing some restriping and regrading to create accessible ADA parking spaces. And again, it's relatively straightforward. It's really just creating, meeting the minimum and slope requirements required as part of the ADA requirements. Additionally, we're doing the same thing, so call your attention to Plan North, which is the northerly corner of the building. So that's sort of where VinFen's entrance will be. So the dark shaded area, the right sided dark shaded area is the accessible parking area. We're actually providing a ramp system, a switchback ramp system up to the proposed VinFen main entrance. And just to the north of that, so plan left, there's actually an existing loading dock. So your typical, recessed 4-foot loading area that serves the existing office building today. We're actually proposing to raise that 4 feet just to match so the pavement will match the building finished floor elevation so that it acts more as a garage rather than a typical recessed loading area. So again, it's really just saw cutting and raising the grade and repaving in that area. Lastly, we're providing some new sidewalks throughout the site, and really that came as a recommendation from our traffic consultant. You can see we're sort of connecting some of the existing sidewalk along the building, specifically along that southerly side of the building. And we're also providing a new striped crosswalk and sidewalk connecting to the existing sidewalk along Technology Drive. Access to the site will remain as does today with the single curb cut located off Technology Drive. And from a parking standpoint, the existing site is comprised of 225 spaces. The proposed condition results in 224. Really, that loss of 1 space just comes from some of the restriping to create the accessible parking spaces. And again, those do meet what is required in the zoning regulations from a parking requirement standpoint. We did have some prepared slides to speak specifically to the traffic impact assessment. I can sort of flip through those slowly if, Bob, can you hear me and maybe just give kind of a high level overview on traffic while I sort of flip through these slides? Bob, sorry, I was muted on that. Bob, can you just give sort of a 1 or 2 minute high level overview on the traffic, and I'll just kind of rotate through the slides here?
Yes, thank you. For the record, Robert Michaud, Managing Principal, MDM Transportation Consultants. I'll keep this brief. We've prepared a traffic impact and access study that looks at the key gateways serving this particular property. That includes the intersection of Westford Street at Technology Drive at Carl Street, and Westford Street at Carl Street. Those locations were inventoried for traffic volume conditions in September of this year, which represents an above average volume period of the year. We've also inventoried the public transportation systems serving the site, which include 2 specific LRTA routes, each of which has a stop located very close to where the site is. That's LRTA Route 5 and LRTA Route 17. The site is also served by a public sidewalk system, along with sidewalk systems that connect the property to Westford Street and Carl Street. So this particular site does have non-auto based access options. Trip generation for the use relative to the historic use of the property as an R&D, or research and development use building, shows a trip differential during peak hours of between 20 and 30 vehicle trips total. Those are very modest trip increases that are not expected to materially impact traffic flow conditions at any one of the 3 gateway locations, intersections that we've studied. And there are no specific locations that will sustain more than about a 2 to 5% change in volume relative to existing conditions that were inventoried in September. Operationally, the intersections all operate at level of service C or better during peak hours, with no change as a result of the proposed programming. So the key finding of the project is that there is a modest increase in trip activity relative to the historic use of the property. Ample capacity exists to accommodate those trips at the level of service C or better operation. And finally, on a parking analysis, we've demonstrated in the traffic report that a peak demand of between 85 and 103 parking spaces are projected, which are well accommodated with the on-site parking supply of 158 spaces. Glad to go into details on any aspect of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. And just to piggyback on that briefly, I would just highlight that we are in receipt of staff comments, specifically a separate staff comment letter focusing on transportation-related items. And Bob, you could speak to it in more detail if we need to, but I think the overarching theme of the letter was that the city essentially agrees with your approach outlined in your traffic assessment. So we don't see really any issues in that letter from a traffic standpoint.
I'll also add, for the record, that the approach that we have taken, which staff agrees with, is a conservative one, and that we've applied mostly industry standard trip rates to develop those estimates. Empirically speaking, real life operations of both VinFen and Spectrum have shift patterns that do not coincide with peak hours of traffic. Outpatient services, for instance, at Spectrum begin as early as 6 in the morning. So staff in that particular shift period will not be impacting peak periods at all. And they'll be ending at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And similarly for VinFen, shift patterns are 7 to 3, and then again 3 into the nighttime hours, avoiding those peak hours. So the estimates that I've just presented, which are modest to begin with, are in fact conservatively high on that basis.
Great, thank you, Bob. I will keep you on the line in case any traffic-specific questions come up.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask a quick question? If I could just ask a quick question for
Yeah,
clarification, because you referenced specifically the memo that was focused on transportation, and the city's traffic engineer did agree with the methodology, but also item number 10 had suggestions for the transportation demand management program. Are you in agreement with the elements of that program that she's suggesting as well?
So that was comment 10?
Yes.
Yeah, Bob, I'm sure you didn't hear that. Have you had a chance to review comment number 10 in the transportation letter? And if so, are you in agreement with what specifically they're asking for?
You'll have to recap in a simple way what that comment is. I don't have it in front of me.
Sure. So it's the last comment. It says several potential transportation demand management program elements are proposed within the transportation memorandum. I encourage the following TDM elements at a minimum.
Yep.
And then it's a list A through H. I can go through each of them if that's helpful.
It would be. I think it probably parallels exactly what we've identified in the traffic report, but go ahead.
Okay, so A is designate an on-site transportation coordinator.
Yes.
B is provide employees public transportation information and promote public transportation use.
Yes.
C is provide preferential parking for low-emission vehicles.
Yes.
D is provide a transit pass subsidy.
Yes.
E is incorporate off-peak shift changes.
Yes.
F, construct pedestrian infrastructure as shown on the site plan and described above to promote access to the LRTA bus stop at Technology Drive and Westford Street.
Yes.
G is provide bike racks.
Yes.
And H is determine pickup and drop-off patient protocols.
Yes, and those are in fact identical to those elements that were identified in the traffic report, so those are appropriate, yes.
Great. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think with that being said, I'm happy to answer any other questions. I think that kind of concludes the presentation that we had planned for tonight, so.
Okay, thank you very much. At this point in time, I'll open up to the public. Anybody like to speak in favor of the 10 Technology Drive? Anybody in favor? Yes, just come to the microphone and give your name and address, please. Thank you.
David Daly, 40 Leland Street. I actually own the building and our abutting company right next to, and a butter right next to this project. I'm not against it. I totally support it. I think it's great. I think the services are really well needed. My big concern is obviously traffic, which they went over some of the mitigation plans for that, but mostly safety and security. What's going to be offered here, what kind of services are going to be provided here, and are they going to be provided 24/7? Our ambulances are going out Carl Street, out Technology Drive, out Westford Street, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And there's also obviously our staff are leaving that early in the morning and late at night. Just what kind of safety and security, and whether or not they can have services 24/7, and what type of service is going to be provided. That's the only question I have.
Okay, thank you.
So the services are 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Okay, thank you. Just give your name for the record, please.
I'm Kristen Nolan. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Spectrum Health Systems. And just to speak to the security aspect, we do have program safety guides that we plan to employ to monitor the outside of the building.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else like to speak? In favor? In favor? In favor? Anybody want to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Anybody want to speak at all? Okay. Hearing none at this point, I'll turn it over to the board members. Any board members have any questions? I think the main questions, well, to start was the transportation memo that we got from our transportation engineer, which we've already covered, which was helpful, especially where she printed out a 2 or 3 page report. So that was, I think, a question that we're all going to ask, but I believe that's been answered so far at this point. But,
Mr. Chairman, if I
sure,
may.
Mr. Bichette, yeah.
So I'm just going to reference the staff memo of November 26th. Under the DPD project management team comments.
Yep.
Specifically, item number 2, the applicant should seek to maximize shade tree canopy. So plant biodiversity may consider an outdoor space such as healing garden to complement the interior functions of the program. So have you thought of incorporating any of that into it? And if you could, point that out, please.
So we haven't made any formal revisions to the plans per any of the staff comments to this point. We plan on doing so. As far as any landscaping-related items, we can coordinate directly with DPD as far as what specifically they may be looking for. I mean, just looking at the aerial here, it's our team's opinion that, you know, we feel the site is, that there is sufficient landscaping and tree coverage at the site as exists today. But again, we're open to having discussions with, and we've worked well so far through this process with DPD to see if maybe we can just have a discussion as to what specifically they may be looking for. And maybe there is opportunities for us to look at some areas a little closer.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's becoming a bad habit. The discussions aren't taking place before the applicant comes before this board, and that's part of what we're supposed to be approving in the site plan review. I'm becoming increasingly frustrated with that. Those should be discussions that happened beforehand. So, so there hasn't been any discussions relative to the comments on the DPD memo at all. Is that correct?
That's correct. I believe we received this Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon. So our team sort of been reviewing these comments, and we're planning to formally respond and have any direct discussions with any departments as needed.
Now, from a security perspective, did read the material, and there was also a frequently asked questions about the program. And I'm just going to read, how does the program structure? The center will include 24/7, 365 urgent access to walk-in patients, drop-offs by police and other first responders, and will include access to the following services: triage, medical clearance, sober support, 10 beds for less than 24-hour stay, crisis assessment, intervention, stabilization, urgent behavioral health services, living room, peer-led program, care coordination, peer specialist, recovery coaches, acute treatment services to substance use, clinical stabilization services for substance use, respite care, 10 beds for short-term stays. It says, will individuals be able to walk off the program campus? While the program is designed to be low barrier, we are committed to maintaining a safe environment for clients, staff, and members of the community. All individuals living in the facilities will be given resources and structure, including transportation, company van, or rideshare program if needed, reducing this instances of clients walking off. And I know we had a speaker concerned about that. So can somebody tell us a little bit about the protocol? Because I know Venfrin has, contracts with, I don't know, 9, 10, 12 communities. I'm born and bred in Lowell, and some of my childhood friends have substance abuse, but I do take exception where it kind of implies that most of the issues are Lowell residents. Well, they're Lowell residents because they're dropped off here and they become Lowell residents. So just curious as to what the volume you're expecting, and then kind of the history of that, because there are businesses around there, and obviously we just want to make sure it's site plan review, but have some idea what's in place.
Sure.
That would be extremely helpful.
So can you, I'm sorry,
I'm sorry, I can barely hear you.
so you're asking about,
What are some of the safety protocols, and especially some of the individuals, they can walk off the site, obviously. I know when I actually toured the site, there were some encampments on the backside of the site, so obviously wouldn't want to see that being perpetuated with the services there. And there is a cannabis facility which this board approved within walking distance of that facility. So I don't know if you're even aware of that, so just curious as to what you have in place to really protect the businesses that are around there.
sure. So we operate 280 inpatient 24-hour beds across the state of Massachusetts in 2 other communities. And I think, we have program safety guides. We have motivational interviewing skills that we use to keep these people engaged in treatment. But the hope is that this facility is going to help with those encampments and engage people into treatment to access mental health and substance use services.
So again, for the businesses that are around there, how would that, I guess I'm just trying to get a gauge for how you deal with that. I mean, is that, because it is an interesting location. It's more auto-oriented as far as access. So I'm just curious on how do you envision a lot of people coming to the facility?
So most of our folks are dropped off by a loved one, or they come via Uber Health. We have an account with Uber Health to help patients to get there. But not a lot of people walk out of treatment. I think people are concerned about that. It's always a significant concern. And we work hard to engage people in treatment and keep them there until they can have a safe way to get home.
Now, and if somebody does walk off, I mean, they have a right to walk off, so it's not like somebody can call you.
locked unit.
Not like Mr. Daly can call you from the Pride Ambulance Building and say, we have an incident here.
We always want to be a good community partner, and so certainly if we see incidents of that, we're happy to meet with neighbors, we're happy to address the issue however we have to. However, again, we don't see a large percentage of walk-offs, and we usually work with folks to notify them. For instance, in our Westboro facility, we notify the police in the non-emergency line, hey, we just had a walk-off, and we engage with them. We try to be a good community partner.
And is there any concern with the cannabis facility that's near there at all?
No.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chet. Caleb, any question?
Yeah, I appreciate the traffic presentation. I think that's adequate, and I appreciate the incorporation of the TDM, the traffic demand management programs. So I don't have concern on that end. I think Member Fischett have addressed some of the security concerns. And I can see other staff comments are positive, saying this will provide a service to the community. So I think it's a good use of the parcel, and the site plan is adequate. Regarding working with DPD, so picking up where Member Fischett mentioned, regarding the trees, let's say how they suggest increasing tree canopy, what I have observed from the site is, seems like the only big area that is without trees is the center parking lot, right? So, depending on what DPD will ask for, would you be open if take out some of the parking and put trees there? Is that a possibility? Because I concur with fellow members that we'll have hoped this have worked out before coming to us, so that we can decide with that information in mind. But now that this is not the case, so we'll have to attach a condition at the end. But in case there is dispute, you will have to come back. So just want to sense if there would be agreement down the line, and so I asked you that question, whether you will be willing to trade off some parking spaces to add islands, for example, to add tree cover or not. And if there's other concerns like security, I would like to know as well.
Yeah, I appreciate the comment, and that's something we can certainly coordinate directly with DCD. As far as I understand, from a regulation standpoint, we are meeting the regulations from a parking, landscaping, and planting requirement standpoint. If we aren't meeting any regulations, we absolutely will update the plan to meet those requirements. Again, we'll have to have some additional conversations with DCD just to see if we can find some middle ground. But just to reiterate, from our team standpoint, just looking at the site, we do feel that it provides sufficient landscaping, given the amount of trees and shrubs that are planted throughout the property. But we are happy to have discussions with DCD just to further pick their brains as far as what specifically they might be looking for.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm thinking a DPD as a development
I apologize.
planning department. So I'm just thinking what they have in mind is probably we take out a few space at the end of an aisle and then put islands there, for example. That's seems like what they might have in mind. I don't know about the other open space, kind of healing garden ideas. That you have to pick their brain, pick their mind on that end. But I observed that you have a surplus of parking, which is a good thing. So whether some of that can be put to improving the tree canopy, and I know there's been continued concern about urban heat island effect and tree canopy coverage. So yeah, that's what I would like to hear. So I will let the discussion continue with the fellow members on that note. So let's see. Have you engaged the stormwater, well, let's see, there's a stormwater comments. They're asking for additional drainage information, so where are you right now with regarding the stormwater permit?
Sure. So we have not yet filed the permit. From what I understand, as far as what specifically they're asking for in the comment, in addition to applying for that stormwater permit, is just some pretty regular survey topographic information as far as, grate elevations, pipe sizes, things like that, which we can absolutely provide on the plan. So
Yeah, and see some elements of that on the site plan, and you're not really changing the,
yeah, so we're actually
Interior.
correct. We're actually not touching any existing stormwater structures, and we feel that we're essentially matching from an impervious standpoint what exists today. So we're not currently proposing any stormwater improvements.
okay. And they have not, oh, well, you have not applied. Have you engaged them?
Not yet, no.
Not yet, okay. So we'll definitely have to put that as a condition, but
Yep, absolutely.
but it seems like you have a straightforward process with them. And let's see. Yeah, engineering comments say that you need a driveway paving permit, so that's okay with you?
Yeah, so to be honest, I haven't had a chance. Again, we just received this letter last week, and with the holiday and time off and things like that, we've had limited time to really dig into these comments. So the driveway permit comment is something I do want to take a closer look at, just knowing that we're not altering the curb cut in any way. We're not repaving in any way. So I'm curious what specifically triggers that. And I understand, it may be a change in use thing that triggers it. So I'm not saying we don't need it.
Sure.
But I'm going to do a little bit more legwork and really, I'll coordinate with the engineering department as well but if it's needed, absolutely, we will be applying for that.
And then just to confirm, so the other access will be continually gated as currently is, right? The one
Yes,
onto
yes.
Westford Street, right? No, or it's the main street.
Westford, yeah.
Westford, yes.
The one back here,
Okay,
that's correct, yep.
okay. Want to ask, and then I don't, seems like you have plenty of snow storage, so I think the only thing is that the traffic engineering comments just not to block sight lines. So there are plenty of space, so I wouldn't I have no concern about it. How about trash pickup? How will that be taken care of?
Sure. So we're actually, that's something we're discussing as a team collectively right now. We're deciding if it's going to be sort of internal to the building, or there may be a chance that we look to do some sort of exterior, small, screened-in trash enclosure. But that is something we're discussing as a team right now.
Where do you think that would be located, if approximately?
Yeah. So I'm not sure if.
Hello, Frank Height, Spectrum Health Systems. So, again, Spectrum's going to occupy the top floor, and Venfin's going to occupy the first floor. So we're going to have separate trash facilities. Spectrum is most likely going to have a compactor. In the rear of the building, there's 2 loading docks. That compactor would probably be in one of the loading dock bays. We don't need two loading docks. Venfen is going to use a trash and recycling, and that will be in a fenced-in enclosure across from their entrance. I don't know if there's a little white spot on the screen there where there's a box truck parked. It's at about 3 o'clock on the edge of the slide there. It would probably be in that area right there, and again, it would be fenced in. It'd be 2 10-yard containers, one for trash, one for recycling.
Okay. Well, it appears to me it won't be too visible since there is a slope. Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
There's one last thing. And maybe we have the map still, okay. And where's the bike rack going to be? And is that going to be inside or outside?
So the bike rack will be on the exterior of the building. We haven't worked with the architect specifically or the traffic consultant as to where specifically they would be laid out, but I imagine we would probably do, most likely 2 in proximity to the VinFen entrance, which is where the cursor is currently on the screen.
Okay.
And then 2 at the patio area at the Spectrum main entrance, which is where the cursor currently is. So there's plenty of room that we think makes sense to house those bike racks. It's just sort of finalizing those locations.
Sounds good to me. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's all I have, Chairman.
Thank you, Caleb. Danny?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My colleagues have hit on most of these subjects. I would agree with Member Frechette. I think moving forward, I think Member Frechette and the rest of us would very much appreciate that if people could get through the comments and have a game plan prior to coming here, that will help all of us. So it's not in particular just for you. I think anybody moving forward probably should have that. As far as the trees, it seems like it has a ton of trees compared to most of the projects that we see out there. However, I certainly think that as a good citizen, you should be working with DPD to improve or maximize the canopy, the tree canopy. My only question on this proposal, and I keep hearing protocols and stuff, I need real world stuff. What is the safety and security for these facilities? Do we have security guards? Do we have off-duty police officers? What is it? All right, not just a piece of paper. What is it? That's what I'm looking for.
Hello, my name is Kim Schellenberger. I'm with VinFen, which is the other tenant of the building. So our plan is to have security guards 24/7, and we will have, we are investing heavily in security equipment that'll be both inside and outside. We will also be staffed, highly staffed, so that we will be prepared for any security incident. So does that help?
That does help.
Okay.
What sort of security incidents have you faced in the past, and what are these things that you're putting in place designed to alleviate?
Good question. So VinFen is a fairly large mental health and human services organization. We operate around 200 group residents across eastern Massachusetts and Connecticut. We also, you may be aware, operate the Community Behavioral Health Center at 391 Varnum Ave. At that location, we operate 13 mental health crisis beds for youth and adult who are experiencing a mental health crisis. Those are not locked units. It's not a psychiatric hospital, which is locked. So we are very skilled at managing people who may escalate, their behaviors may escalate. We work with them to de-escalate the situation. At the same time, we know when it's important to call the police or first responders to help. As part of this program, the Restoration Center that we are developing, we are working very closely with police and plan to work with them to develop secure drop-off at the Restoration Center. So we are still months away from operations. There's a lot of construction to be done, but that is one of the things that we have begun and will continue to work on over the next few months.
What type of security equipment? You're mentioning security, putting some sort of security equipment. Don't know squat about security, so whatever you can enlighten me.
Sure. Well, there will be cameras with multiple cameras and monitors in a central location with security guards. There will be buzzers to buzz people in. There will be key fobs for staff to go in and out of doors. There will be kind of light activated, if motion detectors. So if there is no motion in a particular room, a light will go on to alert people to go in the room. I'm actually not the security expert either, but those are the ones I'm familiar with, so.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time. That's good, Mr. Chairman.
I just have a couple of questions. I think everything's been covered. On one thing on DPD mentions and talking about, given the proximity to the nearby Black Brook and its associated wetlands, the applicant should ensure appropriate measures are taken to address stormwater management. So I know they talked about getting a stormwater permit, and they mentioned that you should consider bioswales within the large paved area. You want to work with the stormwater permit and the stormwater facilities to do that? To
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I assume if those types of things are required as part of the stormwater permit, then we'll absolutely be proposing.
Yeah, okay, and then I know you talked about the trash pickup. Obviously, if it's gonna be a dumpster, it has to be outside. If it's outside, it has to be screened.
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
And I think, yeah, and stormwater also just said they want additional drainage information, including the rims and inverts. Some, I'm sure you will, to do that with stormwater.
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
And we covered transportation and depth to start. So, okay. And you want to work with planning development for the landscaping plan. Okay. Yep, I think that's a checkpoint on my stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, let's see. Any board members have any follow-up questions? If not, let's request to the board for the site plan review.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the site plan, bearing in mind site plan is a lower threshold than, say, a special permit, so we discussed some of the security issues here, bring that to light. Some of it does go beyond site plan review, but it is, we also have to take into consideration the safety of the community as well. But again, within the realm of site plan review, I think we've covered the elements that follow under site plan review. I do want to note that in the transportation demand management plan that was submitted on page 13, those elements that your traffic engineer agreed to, as it was presented, it said the preliminary list of potential TDM program elements may include the following. And then those items were listed. So based on the conversation over the phone, I would make those a condition of the transportation management plan.
Sure, and
again,
yeah, I think we're comfortable with that.
it wasn't definitive as submitted.
Yep.
With that, I would make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve the site plan with the following conditions: that the on-site landscaping and snow storage areas should be located to not impede sight lines, maintenance of landscaping and snow windows to below 3 feet in height within site triangles should be a condition of any approval. So that was by the transportation engineer, so I would incorporate that as a condition, as well as the recommended conditions of the transportation demand management plan, items A through H, and that the applicant will work with DPD regarding the landscape elements that may enhance the service that is provided by the facility, as mentioned in the memo, the memo of DPD dated November 26 regarding some sort of a healing garden. I think there might be some elements that could be incorporated into that site. And that the applicant will, again, you have to comply with all stormwater management permit guidelines and any recommendations or requirements by the city engineering department.
Yep.
Seconded, Mr. Chairman.
So we have motion on the floor and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Any opposition? Hearing none. The motion carries 4 in favor and none against. Good luck. Wish you well.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
I just want to note that the Zoom is up and running now, if anyone at home needs it.
Okay, moving along on the agenda, we have 684 Westford Street, proposed zoning amendment. In accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 5, the planning board will hold a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Mass, with respect to Chapter 290, therefore entitled the Lowell Zoning Code, by extending the existing traditional two-family zoning district to include an area presently zoned suburban single-family at 684 Westford Street. This is before the planning board to make a recommendation to the Lowell City Council. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Chairman Linehan, members of the Lowell Planning Board, good evening. For the record, my name is Attorney John Cox, 375 Gorham Street, Lowell, Massachusetts. I represent Dave Daly, who's the manager of Westford Street LLC, the owner of the property at 684 Westford Street, which is approximately 45,000 square foot piece of land. Dave is a lifelong Lowellian. He grew up mere streets away from off of Westford Street. I think most of us know Dave and the type of person he is and the type of work he does, more importantly, in restoring blighted areas and blighted properties throughout the city and I think throughout New England as well. This was the former site of the American Legion post. I think we can all remember years ago being there. I know I can. And it hasn't changed much from those days. It currently has an active liquor license, it has an active restaurant license, and it is a pre-existing non-conforming use. We are asking the planning board this evening to recommend to the city council that the traditional two-family zone be extended across Westford Street, basically, to include this property, which is currently a suburban single-family. Our proposal is to build 4 single-family homes on Westford Street and one two-family to the rear of the property. I think you all have the plan and this before you, the proposed site plan, I believe. All those units would be serviced by a driveway in the back, which would mean that the 4 single-family homes on Westford Street would not need curb cuts on Westford Street. There would be no curb cuts on Westford Street. The access would be from the common drive on that side street. There would also be a homeowners association, which will be established to maintain not only the driveway, but the exteriors of the homes, the grounds, and the trash pickup, etc. So it wouldn't be, would be 4 single-family homes and a two-family home all taking care of those types of things on their own. There would be a homeowners association. Obviously, we would need council approval to extend the zoning, as well as planning board approval later on down the road, and ZBA approval, and also the historical board. I think there's a few major things going for this proposal. And I want to point out that in September, Dave held 2 meetings at the site, at the American Legion Hall, one on September the 12th and one on September the 26th. The meeting on September the 12th, there was about 80 people there, neighbors, and it was the first meeting that we had with the neighbors. And at that point, Dave was proposing the 4 single-family homes on Westford Street and two separate single-family homes to the rear of the property. And there was a lot of back and forth with the neighborhood on that first meeting, and listening to the neighbors and taking into consideration their concerns. Dave came up with a plan that's before you this evening, which has 4 single-family homes on Westford Street and 1 two-family to the rear of the property. Obviously, the major point, I think the major positive point of this right off the bat is, you've got an existing bar, restaurant there currently, and can continue to be there. And when Mr. Daly bought this property 2 years ago, he thought that he would be putting in some sort of a neighborhood pub there. The feedback he got from people in the business was people didn't want to do that. They wanted to do more of not a neighborhood pub, let's say. So Dave came to looking at this thing from a housing point of view, and to get rid of the bar, a restaurant, which is what it is. no other, you can't put a shine on that sneaker. It's a bar, and it has been for a long time. So that's the major thing. You have some housing as opposed to having a bar there. The second thing is from changing the zoning from suburban single-family to traditional two-family, you take away forever the possibility of accessory dwelling units, which we all know will, in February of this year will come into play from the Commonwealth. Obviously, the city has not yet adopted it yet, but assuming that the city does adopt it, obviously that would allow the single-family homes that he has now to obviously be converted not from 4 or 6 or 4 or 5 or 6 homes to double that with an ADU. Clearly, we would think not in the best interest of the neighborhood either, or the city. Again, there's a DPD memo dated November 26th that I'm sure all of you have, which points out specifically on page, I guess it's page 3, Planning and Project Management Team comments. 684 Westford Street is nearly 4 times the size of other single-family parcels in the neighborhood. Extending the traditional two-family zone will allow for an additional housing units to be constructed on this parcel. Additionally, extending the TTF zone will reduce barriers to building missing middle housing to help the city meet its housing production goals, the goals of the Lowell Forward Master Plan, while not being inconsistent with the neighborhood feel. Every other building department, every other city department that was asked for comments, I think they all were, building departments had no issues, and the engineering department said no comments or objections, historic board, no issues, and everybody else was basically no comment. So that's a pretty strong memo, I would say, from DPD in support of this. Clearly, by allowing this to go forward, and I believe there were at least two letters of support from neighbors that have been submitted to the city. Didn't come through us, but it came directly to the city. And there are people here to speak in favor of this project tonight as well. But again, tax revenues increase with 4 single-family homes and a two-family, and new housing in the city needs obviously increases as well. So you're taking a property that can be a bar room, turn it into something nice. We all know the work that Dave does in turning blighted properties around. He's done it many, many times in the city and throughout, and there's no doubt he will do it again if given the opportunity on Westford Street. So we ask that you would hope that you would give a positive recommendation to the council for the rezoning, and if that happens, we'll be back before the council, I believe, next week, and then go back to the planning board and back to the zoning board down the road. So with that, that's a quick presentation here. Matt is here to answer any engineering questions you may have, and I know there are people who want to speak in favor of the proposal as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Cox. At this time, I will turn the meeting over to the public, and we'll start with people in favor. As indicated, we did receive 2 letters, so I'll read these letters first, then we'll hear from anybody who's present or on Zoom. First one I have is Thomas Lenahan, Chairman, the Lowell Planning Board. We, American Legion, 684 Westford Street. My family and I resided at 743 Westford Street for over 30 years. Our house is located across the street from the old Legion, located at 684 Westford Street. I'm writing in support of the Daily Group request to change the zoning. The Legion served this purpose for many years, and since they have moved on, we feel it's time to move on from commercial use at the site. The current building is not only an eyesore to the neighborhood, but the commercial use would be a detriment if it were to continue. We don't want to listen to loud music and large groups of people until late night, early morning hours. This is the only commercial use in the area, so changing the zoning to accommodate housing only makes sense. We reviewed the plans, and the homes the Daily Group are proposing would only enhance the neighborhood. They are first-class development company, So building beautiful new homes, that will increase our property values, and remove an unsightly building only makes sense. I hope you agree. Sincerely, Brad Daly. Next letter we have is to Chairman Linehan, Lowell Planning Board. My family and I have resided at 743 Westford Street for over 3 decades. Our house is located across the street from the old Legion, located at 684 Westford Street. I'm writing in support of the Daly Group's request to change the zoning. Although I've never met Mr. Daly, I'm told we're possibly distant relatives. The Legion served this purpose for many years, and they have moved on. My wife and I feel it's time to move on from the commercial use at the site. The current building is not only an eyesore to the neighborhood, but the existing commercial use would be detrimental to the present existing neighbors. If it were to continue, we have to appreciate the absence of loud noise late into the evening and too many cars parked along Westford Street that the Legion operation produces. This is the only commercial use in the immediate area, so changing the zoning, accommodate housing makes sense. We've reviewed the plans and the homes the Daly Group are proposing. We feel this would only enhance the neighborhood. They are a first-class development company, so building beautiful new homes that will increase our property values and remove the unsightly building we feel is the right way to go. We hope you agree. And this is sincerely William Daly Jr. I believe those are the only 2 letters that we received in regards to comment on this matter. So at this time, I'll turn it over to anybody who's present or on Zoom who wants to speak in favor.
Chairman Lenahan, members of the board, my name is Dennis Connors. I live at 38 Westview Road, along with my wife Leanne. I attended both of the neighborhood meetings convened by Daly Group, where he explained the alternative uses of the site. There was no doubt in my mind that a residential use of the site is most beneficial to the neighborhood. To me, it's clear cut. Furthermore, I think as neighbors, we are lucky to have a developer like Daly involved in this. I'm familiar with his past projects, and I'm sure any development that is approved by the city and he constructs will be done in a high-quality manner, making the Highlands neighborhood a better place to live. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Ellen Moriarty. I am a Highlands girl. I grew up on Princeton Boulevard, and I currently live on Westview Road. The Highlands is a neighborhood, a very nice neighborhood. Most of us have dogs or children, walk the area. We're very grateful to have Tyler Park, which is a very public, outstanding place to go in the summer, outdoor concerts, lots of kids, lots of families. Right now, what is there is an eyesore. It's dangerous. It's not pretty. And I think for the city of Lowell to get new housing and new residents who want to live here or upgrade and live in the Highlands would be absolutely fantastic for us. The Daly Company is a very, very outstanding organization. I know they're going to do some great work. I think it's going to increase the neighborhood, and I think it's a wonderful thing, and I'm all for it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, members of the planning board, my name is TJ McKiernan. I live at 831 Westford Street with my wife and kids. I'm here in full support of the proposed project, and it's based on the following reasons. Number one, the development will absolutely improve what is there today. The homes that are being proposed will be absolutely within the character of the neighborhood, and I think they'll have a positive impact on the surrounding property values. I have some familiarity with some of the other projects that the developer has done, and they're all top-notch. Now, I think one of the main things here is, from my understanding, the current zoning and the recent ADU legislation that went through, he could have easily gone through without any needed approval and put some very less desirable options on that site that will not be within the keeping of the neighborhood. The last thing we need in this neighborhood is another large function hall without enough parking. So I think we take advantage of this opportunity and go with the proposed plan. The feedback that he solicited from the neighborhood is also in keeping with the character of his approach, and I think he deserves credit for that. So I am here in full support. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service to the city.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Morgan Schermerhorn. My home at 21 Tyler Park is a direct abutter to 684 Westford Street. My husband and I purchased our home in 2017 as a place to begin and raise our family. The charm and character of the historic homes in the neighborhood drew us in, along with the beautiful trees, the cultural diversity, and of course, the iconic Tyler Park. We always considered the American Legion Club to be an eyesore in the neighborhood, but we grew to accept its place. When we learned of the sale of the property 2 years ago, we became increasingly worried about a potential bar, nightclub, or even a restaurant taking over the space. The traffic, noise, and smells would surely drive us out eventually. Over the past several months, however, we have become more confident in our decision to stay put, largely thanks to Dave Daly's consideration and patience as he worked with us and our neighbors to ensure a development plan that many of us feel comfortable with. My husband and I are happy to support the Daly Group in their effort to build 4 single-family homes along Westford Street with 1 two-family home in the back. The proposed duplex building will allow more opportunity for home buyers while maintaining more green space on the lot as opposed to crowding in more single-family homes. Having been inside several of Dave's residential builds, I am confident in his architectural designs. I believe this project will restore character and charm to the large lot, bringing the neighborhood closer to a true historic district feeling. The rezoning classification is simple and slight. I do not view it as extraordinary or out of place. It is a natural extension of the existing TTF zone across Westford Street. While I do have concerns about parking, trash collection, and snow removal, I trust that these issues will be smartly evaluated with great consideration for the existing neighbors, and I look forward to welcoming new home buyers and families to the Tyler Park neighborhood. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Brian Donovan, lifelong Highland residents, in support of this project. Knowing Mr. Daly and his projects, I am fully in support of this project due to traffic concerns and everything else. You'd be dealing with a dozen to 20 cars per day, per night, versus 100 to 150 if this goes forward with commercial. Mr. Daly does great work growing up the street. He has the best interest of the neighborhood on his agenda. This is an asset to the Highlands and the community itself. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Anybody like to speak in opposition?
My name is Phyllis Hunt. I reside at 48 Florence Avenue in the Tyler Park Historic District. I am in favor of residential development at the former American Legion property, but I am not in favor of the proposed zoning change from suburban single-family to traditional two-family by right. Initially, when the American Legion property was sold, city officials informed the neighborhood that 3 homes could be built on the property with the current single suburban family zoning. Now, the owner-builder is seeking zoning change to build 4 high-end 4-bedroom homes and a duplex with 2 bedrooms in each unit. That high-density residential use seems overcrowded and not beneficial to existing residents in the neighborhood who already endure high traffic volume, speeding, and parking issues. The change in zoning affects space required for each dwelling to its least in a traditional two-family zone, and by right avoids zoning, planning, and historic board inputs on variances. The owner-builder will surely profit substantially from the proposed zoning change to traditional two-family, but the neighborhood may not. If a zoning change is needed, please consider a change to traditional single-family, which will lessen density and better reflect the current neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else like to speak in opposition?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Robert Hunt. I live at 48 Florence Avenue. We've lived there for 45 years. I knew Mr. Daly as a boy, and he does do good work. I'm really not here tonight to oppose the project because I think it's a good idea that we do make residential there rather than a commercial. But the thought of having the current suburban single-family change to a TTF is just a bridge too far for me. I would like to see it done as a traditional single family. And the reason, the proposals that we got originally for this property were 6 units, and they amounted to 24 beds. And we know in this day and age that means there could be 24 cars. Or, that's just people living there. I can tell you right now, on Florence Avenue, there is a huge parking issue, left and right, parked all the way up the street. In the wintertime, it becomes basically a single lane road with everything. The overcrowding, and as we all know, illegal apartments. And there's a few on that street there. I believe that this could be mitigated, this problem could be mitigated if we were able to reduce the amount that's going in there, maybe the duplex in the back. We had 2 public meetings, as everybody has stated, but there were at least 3 to 4 private or limited meetings with Mr. Daly. I know I had attended a few, and all through this, I wanted to be able to bring it down, the density down in what he was planning to put in. He did not budge from that one bit. What we came up with was is a duplex, but it still is a duplex with 3 bedrooms in each. The properties in the front, the 4 in the front, at last proposal were 4 bedrooms each. So all these bedrooms, cars dumping out onto Florence Avenue, I felt became a bit of a problem. So because this is for zoning tonight, I'm asking the board to be able to look at maybe scaling back, instead of going 2 levels down from a suburban single family through the traditional single family down to a traditional 2-family, is to maybe look at trying to mitigate and get it to a a traditional single family. That's what I'd like to see. I guess that's about it. I don't think I'll go into the commercial part. I don't think that's necessary tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to speak? Anybody else? No? Okay. The only thing I can say is that we don't have the ability to change what the rezoning request is. So we either give a positive recommendation to the city council, as the applicant has presented, or we give a negative recommendation. So we can say we want it to be changed to a different type of zone. We don't have that authority to do so. We either vote positive recommendation or negative recommendation. So, but we can't change the zone change that's being requested, that's been advertised and before us. So at this point in time, I'll turn it over. Any board members have questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, so this was not an easy request, I think. And appreciate with the developer shared with the residents what the intentions are, but we're not voting on that here this evening at all. So what we're voting on is the changing of the zone from a suburban single-family to the requested traditional two-family. And also, we've had a couple of things come up recently. I'm perplexed that, in the table of uses, we have specifically for lodging club, by definition means a building or facility owned and operated for social or recreational purposes to which membership is required participation, but is not operated primarily for profit or render services, which is customarily carried on as a business. But somehow it's I hear a reference to a restaurant, so I'm not quite sure what happened along the way, but, we've had clubs here in the city, we had the Elks, and we have a designation in the zoning code and the table, and in suburban single-family restaurants are not allowed, but lodges are. So I'm just, again, because it's, in my opinion, it's almost thrown out there as kind of an underlying, hey, look, if I don't get this, this is what we can do. And I think you even referred to it, Council, as maybe a bar, and I don't see it as, anyways, you'd have to have a legal opinion, and I'm not quite sure about the existing designation of that, but be that as it may, I think everybody agrees they'd love to see residential use, no question about that. And I know, Mr. Daley, we actually had a proposal about, before this board on the tree removals up at the reservoir, and I remember up on Beacon Street, the project that you did up there, we actually went by those houses, they look really good. Used those porous pavements, I think, for the first time we had seen, so I just looked at that just a couple weeks ago. And obviously your offices on Stedman Street came out absolutely fantastic, so that's not to be questioned. But what we are looking at is, and it's unique, I've got the map here, and it's, the largest portion is suburban single-family, on which this area is all part of. And then it abuts the traditional single-family, and then technically it abuts the traditional two-family, which is across the street from Westford Street, right? So it's just not clear-cut, right? You could go, what's your inclination? Right now it's suburban single-family, it abuts traditional single-family, and technically from across the street you can pull over the traditional two-family. So then we had, if everybody could look at it, it was online, anybody could have gone out and got it, it was, what are the sizes of the lots? What's the development pattern of the area? So I'm just looking at from a zoning, right? You're looking at a zoning change, and this is a non-binding vote, by the way. There's council sitting here, they're gonna make the binding vote on this, but this is a recommendation. So I'm just looking at the development, the pattern here. And so from the properties that were presented from Florence Street and Tyler Park and Westford, I think Gibson, Holden Street, Dartmouth, a couple residents listed there. I had 18 properties were either traditional single-family size. 13 of them were traditional single-family size lots. Five of them were suburban single-family, all on Tyler Park. And then there were 14 lots that were either 6 were traditional two-family, 8 were smaller than a traditional two-family. So a total of 14. So I'm looking at the development pattern of what's the area, and it's pretty close. Relative to the ADUs, someday I'll write a book on that. But it's by right at this point in February. The builders will be able to apply for it. Homeowners will be able to apply for it. Whatever we approve here, whatever is actually presented here, the single families, you could make an ADU by right, as long as it's not greater than 900 square feet. That's in any home in the city of Lowell. Technically, we don't have any more single family zones. So however we want to debate that and discuss that this evening, the reality of it is, if we even change this to traditional single family, the builder could put ADU in there. So that's the reality of that. I wish more people had understood that when that vote was taken at the state level. So from my perspective, I'm really curious as to how my colleagues are going to view this. Again, I don't want to speak to the development. It gets so muddied when we start talking about the development versus the zoning change. So I can appreciate what's being presented in the outreach to the neighborhood. I've been on that end of it as well as a neighborhood leader, and sometimes, you know, things happen too, and projects get sold, and it may not happen. So from our perspective, what's our responsibility as the zone, the proper zone, and what can happen, and is it consistent with what's around there? And I think you can articulate a case for either one of those zones. And so I'm going to listen to my colleagues and see how they interpret the existing zoning and what was best as far as what our recommendation would be to the city council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fischett. Caleb, questions or comments?
So yeah, I think thank you for Member Fischett have done the analysis with the list. I agree that those are very similar to what is proposed. Some are even smaller. And again, it's hard to not separate it with a plan in front of us, but we're really looking at zoning change right now. My take is that, like, being on Westford Street, I think that is a fit for slightly higher density units. And I would rather see less driveways or road cuts into Westford Street as well because of the high traffic. At the same what is the plan suggesting is really attractive in my opinion. That you're close to a main street, but at the same time you're not opening onto the main street. And I realize that for a TTF zoning will slightly encourage more of those type of development. Even if you open up to Westward Street, you could have a shared driveway so that you can minimize curb cuts on a BC road. And also acknowledge that the master plan that was recently updated strongly recommend more housing. So so recognizing that, I think here I can see the argument of the zoning rezoning petition being in support, you know, by the case in front of us. So I feel that there is merit in this petition.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Thank you. Danny?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When I first saw this, my initial reaction was I didn't like it being changed because of many of the single-family homes on Florence. I thought it should stay. It should be traditional single-family rather than what it is now, single suburban family. I wasn't a fan of turning it into traditional two-family. But, you know, when you look at this, ultimately, I think it's kind of like a jump ball when I look at this. I think realistically, it's a better use than what's being there now. However, all we're looking to do right now is change zoning. So I don't see it as spot zoning. So I you know, realistically, we have it across the street. So I wasn't troubled by that. All of these drawings and whatnot might be helpful down the road. But as I see it, I don't think it's a major derivation from the existing zoning. So I guess I would be in favor, even though initially I wasn't. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Mr.
So I know this neighborhood very well. I mean, I grew up 6 streets from there, and we used to hang around at Tyler Park, and we've been to that function hall many, many times over the years. And as it stands now, I don't think anybody's in favor of leaving it the way it is. Basically, they can say it's commercial business there, whether you want to call it a restaurant or what was it, Doc, you know, some plan, it was either, or what did they put it down as? Was it restaurant slash lodge? And I don't know how they can, I had a question about whether it's a restaurant or not, but I've been to the lodge there plenty of times, but I haven't been to the restaurant there. But I think...
There's a kitchen license.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in the Wednesday shop sells hot dogs too, but I don't know if that's a restaurant, but, you know.
I grant you that point, Mr.
Yeah, I mean, so, in every gas station in the city, but so we know that whatever plan we see here is not what we're voting on.
Correct.
We're just voting on a zoning change.
Right.
So we voted on zoning changes in the past, and then when it came back to us for site plan, we've seen different site plans. Not by this applicant, or not by this attorney, but for other people in the past. And then they come in and say, well, we changed our mind. I'm like, well, that's what we can say about it. So that's why when Mr. Vichette's talking about it, we're not talking about this particularly, because this is what may be their goal plan, but if we pass the zoning, doesn't mean this is what's going to come back before us for site plan. We don't know that.
Correct.
If Mr. Daley tells us it is, and Mr. Cox tells us it is, I will believe it, because both of them have been here several times before and have never diverted from what they told us they're going to do. And I don't think it'd be worth their while to change that now, in my opinion. So we know what the zone could change to, but if you do look at this zone, if it stayed single family, they could go with 4 houses. So this is really 4 houses with 1 duplex in the back. So when I kept reading this and walking the neighborhood street up there last week, and like I say, I'm familiar with it, because I knew the people who lived on Tyler Park right behind it, where the old Connors when I was a kid growing up. I knew the people on Florence Ave, I knew the people on Gibson Street, I knew the people on Dartmouth Street. So I know the area very well, but I think it does, I like the idea of it being more of a residential zone change instead of leaving it as is and having someone come over and keep it as commercial. Like you say, you drive by there now, you know, they have a sign up, you know, functions, but nothing's really happening there. I know every time we have a meeting or hear something, they all tell us that we need more residential. So I don't have an objection to the zone change. I think the residential in there fits in the neighborhood, whether you know, which residential you want to keep it at. But I think looking at this proposal and looking at all the houses on Tyler Park, Florence Ave, across the street, and what the sizes are between the 2 families, the 3s, the 4s, the singles, I have no objection to the zone change.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to clarify, because what comes out of the board, it just means a lot to me, is, so we're not changing it from a commercial use to residential. It's residential as it sits.
Correct.
Just want everybody to understand that. Like, we're doing a great thing, we're changing it to residential.
That's right.
It's residential as it sits. And even with this zoning change, that building still sits there, still has the same designation.
Right.
Doesn't change.
It's a pre-existing
Yeah,
non-conforming.
it doesn't change.
Right.
Right? So we're not doing a great thing by, oh, we just rescued it from being a club. All right? So I just want to make that clear. It's suburban, single-family. It calls for bigger lots right now. And, you know, the applicant is looking to have smaller lots put on there and having the ability to do 2 families by right. That's what we're looking at. As long as everybody knows what we're voting on, what we're recommending, right? Because it doesn't change, and then if the zoning gets changed, it still doesn't change the way it is, just the way it is right now. Just increases the density. So it's whether or not we want to increase the density of the potential development on that site or not, is really what it boils down to, right? So the owner right now can develop under that site right now residential. They'd have to be 10,000 square foot lots, and that would be allowable by right. So
Right.
I just, for clarification, I've been on the other side when it's been, Tarsi Poulias used to use the word snooker, right? It was presented as if something was being done, and it's not. So I just want to make that clear. So, and I just want to make sure we were articulating that properly from the board.
Yep, of course.
So.
Any other further comments? No? Okay. I'll make a motion that we give a positive recommendation to the city council for the zone change.
I'll second that.
Motion by Attorney Tenza, so we have a motion on the floor, and second by Attorney Tenza. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, so 4 in
Thank you,
favor.
gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Nice, Ben. So the zone change is recommended to go before the city council. I believe I read in this morning's paper, it'll be before the council next week, next Tuesday night, I believe so.
I believe so, yes.
Is it next Tuesday? I think I saw that this morning's paper, so.
Thank you. I wanna
Anybody has
thank-
any questions on the zone change? Obviously, the council has the final say in the matter. We will only recommend, non-binding recommendation vote.
Yep, thank you very much. and
Wish you all
I
good
Thank
luck.
Peter and the staff at DPD for all their help.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, moving along on the agenda, we have 71 North Barica Road, proposed zoning amendment in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 5. The Lowell Planning Board will hold a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinance, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 90 thereof entitled Lowell Zoning Code, by extending the existing traditional two-family zoning district to include the entirety of 71 North Barica Road in Lowell, which is presently zoned traditional single-family zone. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Mr. Chairman, Attorney George Theodoro, representing the petitioner Stephen Doherty, trustee of the FTO Realty Trust. Excuse me. You're correct. This is a petition to extend the traditional two-family zoning district to include the entire parcel of 71 North Barica Road, which comprises approximately 3.5 acres. It's hard to imagine that there's a piece of property in the city of Lowell comprising undeveloped of 3.5 acres, but this is the parcel. It abuts Tewksbury on one side, and it abuts a traditional two-family zoning district on the other. The two-family zoning district on the adjacent parcel comprises Hollis Street. Hollis Street, if you look at the map, the assessor's map, is developed with all traditional two-family homes. The property was developed in between 1962 and 1965 on 8,000 square foot lots. So it's an older development. We are requesting and asking for your recommendation to extend the zoning from the adjacent traditional two-family district into the traditional single-family district in its entirety. What the developer proposes by doing so, under current zoning, he would propose 11 lots comprising two-family units on each of the lots, or 22 units. The 11 lots, as we said, would comprise 22 units, and this abuts a two-family district, which is entirely the street of Hollis Street. On the corner of Hollis Street and North Barica Road are two large apartment buildings. The concept plan that we provided you of the 4-acre site was reviewed by DPD, and in their opinion, and we've heard that term used before, middle housing, that what this does, and this goes back, the term middle housing, excuse me, I got a frog in my throat, I think, but the term middle housing goes back to the city's master plan. They use that term middle housing as a means of trying to create more of it. It's more duplexes, more townhouses, more of the improvements of this type of building in the city to create and build a diversity of housing throughout the city. And this is an example of it. And I quote the DPD comments, said that North Borica Road is a large, nearly 4-acre parcel extending the TTF zone will reduce barriers to building missing middle housing to help the city meet its housing production goals. Extending the two-family zone would not substantially change the feel of the neighborhood. So we know that from reading the master plan that 50% of the housing stock in the city was built prior to 1940. So as a result, we have neighborhoods of smaller lots, smaller homes. So in order to get creative and to build more housing, the boards such as yourself and the request to the city council, they have to get more creative to get the zoning code to align with today's community needs. And today's community needs consist of more housing. We know that comes right down from the governor right to the city. We know from the ADU proposal that in a single family zone, as a matter of right, you can construct another 900 square foot residential dwelling unit as a matter of right. Conceivably, if this was developed, as Mr. Frechette said in the prior hearing, we could develop 11 residential lots with 11 ADUs. Now that's a tool that is supposed to be used by the city. That's a tool that's supposed to be used in neighborhoods that require it, not to be used as a hammer and say, this is what we can do here. Because I don't think in theory that's good development. Good development is going forward and requesting something like this, which would be a zoning extension. Now, the city law department reviewed this request. Their request indicated that it's not spot zoning, it's a logical extension of the two-family zoning district, and it is permissible. So, but by doing so, in creating more diversity of housing with these townhouses here, we support the neighborhood, we support economic development, and we support more home ownership. And by having more home ownership and creating this neighborhood here and adding to it, you're creating community value and the value and respect for their community to take care of the property. What we would propose down the road in the development, which isn't before the board right now, is to build this out as a private road, create an association, a homeowners association to run this for trash collection and whatnot. And also, that's another vehicle for a neighborhood to go to if there's a complaint. They go to the association. They make a complaint. They have a body to go to make a complaint. Now, anytime we add units, residential units, and the planning board hears this argument all the time. When you add units, you add vehicles, you add traffic, and that is the case. A development can't go forward without it. And however, the way we'd always look at it is, are we going to say no to this, no to doing something creative, no to do something to create more housing units, more to encourage responsible home ownership by adding these townhouses here? Or do we say no because of that? I say that this is a logical extension. It's something that the city DPW approved, Planning and Development approved, excuse me, and it's something that is logical and a logical extension for the neighborhood. And for us to encourage home ownership encourages neighborhood stability, and that's important. So that's a part of this creative process to build, essentially, and contribute to a nice neighborhood. And you will hear arguments about parking or arguments about traffic. We did meet with the neighborhood, and we did discuss this project. We feel that by doing this, we're supporting home ownership. We are increasing the tax base of the city between 11 and 22 units substantially. And by doing it, by giving more people in the city an opportunity to purchase their own home in this fashion as a townhouse, it's far more affordable than a single-family home with the cost today. And you're giving that family, giving them an opportunity to create some generational wealth, since most of the wealth that we build up is in our homes. And you're giving each one of these homeowners that opportunity. So I have Mr. Hammer is here with me tonight. You have copies of what the proposed concept plan again is. Again, it is a concept plan. And you also have some copies of the proposed units that we would build. And I ask you for your support on this. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this point in time, turn the public hearing over to hear from the people in favor and people against. So we'll start off. Anybody like to speak in favor of this matter? Sure. You in favor? Yeah. What we do, we'll go in favor first, against after, and mixed comes in third. So whichever. Yep. We just ask you to give your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
My name is Melody. I live on Woburn Street. I'm in favor for it because I've been a Lowell resident for over 30 years. I've traveled Hollis Street. I've traveled North Billerica Street. And if they're doing it because based on traffic, I've never ran into traffic on Hollis Street. And the reason if you do run into traffic is because there's duplexes that are built there with single driveways, and you own more than one vehicle. Usually, if you own a house or a duplex, you own more than one vehicle. There's single driveways, so they park on the street. So yes, you do get jammed up because cars are coming this way and that way, so you need to tuck yourself in. But there's 495 north that you get on. There's 495 south that you get off of. Yeah, Hollis Street is a cut-through. It's not because there's going to be new places built. That if he's building 11 and there's 22 houses that people can buy, that's only 44 cars that will be in that area. Are they going to jam down the road all at the same time? I don't think so. And not only that, it's a field. It's used for garbage. So what else? Why? I don't know why. Why are they against it? Having affordable housing in. I would like to know that. What is so against people being able to afford to buy houses? 3 of my children cannot afford to buy a house in Lowell. 1 moved to Texas because it was affordable. I hear young people saying, well, I'm going to New Hampshire. I'm moving north because it's more affordable to live north than it is in Lowell. I don't know why you would be against wanting families to obtain a home and not have to overbid people for homes. If this is affordable housing, I have a niece that purchased property. She had to bid over $75,000 because there was 11 people bidding on that house, and it's not in the best area. But she had to do it because she has 4 kids. So there's not options out there for people to have a nice area. So I would ask, why are they against it? are they not going to have use of that field anymore? Because that's what will happen. You know, they only have so much property. So they're extending into that property. So are you not going to have use of that field? That would be my question. I think it's a great idea to bring 22 new homes in that people can afford, and they're brand new. You buy a house for $600,000, $700,000, that's 28 years old today in Lowell, and it comes with a lot of problems. You don't have someone that you can go to and back it up and say, oh, I can, you know, go to this person because I have a committee when I purchase this home. You know, people don't have that during a private sale. I personally think it's a great idea. And as far as traffic goes, like I said, I've lived here 30 years. That's a cut through for anybody that knows that area. And you cannot blame it on 22 new houses going in there. I don't know how many duplexes are up and down Hollis Street, but I know right across from the property, there's at least 3 properties, single-family homes. So the majority of the traffic that goes on Hollis Street now is not going to be because there's 22 new homes built. It's because it's two sides, there's 2 parkings on each side of the road. So sometimes it can get hectic at rush hour. But if people could bring their cars off of the road, I'm sure it would be a lot smoother than what it is now. And I just think you should approve it, and I'm for it. I want my children to be able to buy, my grandchildren to be able to afford houses.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to speak in favor?
My name's Lorraine. I actually live in downtown. I have grown up in that area. I am a teacher, well, a paraprofessional, and I hear kids all the time saying that they live in big units. Kids these days do not have backyards. They do not have a community to play in. And it's sad seeing kids saying, I've only been in my apartment all day. I don't have a yard to play in. And given this opportunity for 22 houses for kids, I think it's awesome. Kids don't have the opportunity to play in a backyard anymore, and they need it. That's my point. And for the traffic, it's business people coming home from work. Only at like 9 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the afternoon is where the traffic is. Not all day long there. If anything, the people that buy the houses are going to have trouble getting out because of people cutting through from Barica to Lowell. So I think it's a good thing. I wish my kids could have grown up in Lowell, but they couldn't because I couldn't afford it. So now I'm renting a unit in downtown Lowell, and I would love to be able to buy a house. But I would rather the younger people be able to afford a house and their kids grow up in Lowell, because it is a good city. And if they can't afford it, then they're not going to be here. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else like to speak in favor? Come to the microphone, please. Just state your name and address.
My name is Lewis. I live on Lakeview. The reason why I'm for the project is because I grew up and live in Lowell currently work with the city, and mainly, like I said, to be able to afford a home. It's affordable housing. I would like to eventually have something to leave for my kids. In the event, like I said, a duplex is, a lot better than a single home, not only due to pricing, but if I wanted to have someone in my family or even rent that other unit out to support my family, I think it's a good idea, like I said, for genital wealth, to leave something behind for my kids and just eventually own a home. I grew up in an apartment, never lived in a home, so it would just be something, something that I can say I did for myself and for my kids, and something I'd be able to afford.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
How you doing today? My name is George Farrington, live at 98 Cosgrove Street, Lowell. I am for this 22 unit houses because at least you'll have your own little house instead of being one big cluster building that will be on a parcel of land that's all over the edge of Lowell and stuff like that. So I wish the opportunity goes through and they can put this to vote and have more people that have more homes. that they can call home. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in favor?
Hi, my name is Ronnie. I live in the South Lowell area. Reason why I am for this is just very simple. More affordable housing. I am younger. I would obviously like to own my own homes. Just have a place to call my own. I'm currently been renting for the past few years after moving out from my parents' home. I currently pay $2,300 at Cabot Crossing. And I'm bunched up with everyone else. I just like to see this opportunity fall through, so that way, to get into my own home within, whenever the development starts falling through, if it falls through, which we all hope for. It's as simple as that.
Thank you, sir. Welcome. Thank you. Anyone else like to? Yes. Want the microphone?
How are you? My name is Michael Platt. I live on Agawam Street in Lowell. The reason I'm for this project is I pick up a coworker currently right around the corner from the location. Every day we drive by, such an eyesore, trash, disgusting. I drive by that place twice a day. Never really, traffic is not an issue. I pick them up, I bring them home. It'd honestly be nice for more homes to be in Lowell. My children, to actually have a home, be able to call it home. It'd just be so much nicer to see it cleaned up and not such an eyesore anymore.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? At this point in time, anybody like to speak in opposition?
Hello, my name is Brenda Richardson, and I live at 70 North Billerica Road, which is right across the street. I don't know, these are not low-income housing that they're projecting. That's first of all. It was told to us that it was over 500,000. And then secondly, when we brought up the problem with the parking and things, they never gave us an answer. It was kind of like, well, whatever. But the way it is now with the people on Hollis Street, they do have 2 parking spots each on all of theirs, and there's still the parking is all over the road, around the corner, on the grass, because there's no room to park. I have been taking plenty of pictures of bumper-to-bumper traffic on my street. We have the train station down the street. I can't get out of my parking. I can't get out of my driveway. Claudia can't get out of her driveway. And this is the way it's proposed. The street would be completely across. I mean, it's 22 units, which are over $500,000, but there's only 2 parking spots for each of them. So where are they going to put the rest of the... Our street is not even 15 feet wide. And we have bumper-to-bumper traffic. We have the school buses. You cannot walk alongside. There are no sidewalks. There's nothing there. We have so much traffic now. They come down Hollis Street. They're parked all there. When we have the temple, and when we have the temple, they have their festivals and whatever, and they park all over. And it's not a lot of times during the year. They only have it there for a couple of times, and it's a nice event. But there's no parking for them. They have to park everywhere. And as far as the trash, there is no trash. I've lived across the street from it for 46 years. We have never had trash over at 70 North Billerica until last Wednesday when somebody in a U-Haul truck dumped off mattresses right in the front. I don't know why, but we've never had trash there ever. And it's just, there's wetlands. There's tons of wetlands there, so they're going to have to build up on it, and I don't know where that water is going to go. I just went to a planning board meeting in Tewksbury. They're building one house alongside of me, which is fine. But they kind of rolled their eyes when they said, well, I don't want to even touch that Lowell one. That's a huge project. And we have a stream that runs alongside of Tewksbury that they can't go near. They're not going to go near that. but the same stream runs under and over to 71 North Billerica. So, I mean, there's a lot of issues. It's not, and I mean, not for nothing, but this contractor coming in is not a Lowell, he's not a Lowell person. We've lived here forever. And we have taken care of the neighborhood. We've had a good neighborhood. I just don't want, I want to be able to get out of my driveway in the morning. I want to be able to get into my driveway at night. I want to be able to walk down the street if I want to. And this is just adding more and more and more. And I understand all these people that were saying how great it is, but they don't live in the neighborhood. They live on Lakeview Avenue and Woburn Street and whatever, and they're nowhere around. I'm there. And they've always taken care of the property. So I don't know where they got the idea with trash, but there is none. So I just wanted to thank you for listening. If anybody wants to see they can ask me and I'll show you the traffic for real.
Thank you. We've been up there. We've all visited the site. Yeah, we've all been there. And I can tell you how many times I've met the Meadowlands too. So I've been way out there, many a time.
Hi, my name is Claudia Estrella. So I live right across from the new housing that they want to do. So, and I am Brenda's neighbor, and I totally support what she just said. It's true. In the morning when I go to work, so in my house, there's like 3 vehicles. I know it's 22 homes. Each house is 2 cars, right? But you all have a child. Like my house, we have 3 people, so there's 3 cars there. So it can be up to 66 vehicles every day. And also, I totally agree, there's no trash on that house. Well, I've been living there for 17 years. I don't know if it was Thanksgiving Day or the Wednesday, someone dropped 2 mattresses off. And I told my husband, who did that? That's crazy. So someone is playing a game that it is. But the traffic is crazy. And these people who spoke, they don't live there. They're not in and out every day like we are, going to work, coming in and out. It takes us, I have to back up out of my driveway because the way I park, it takes me a while to get out of my driveway. And I'm not against of building, but 22, it's too much. And so I totally support my neighbor because I live across that. It's going to affect me personally, me and my family. And we all need housing, I do agree. I'm not against it, but not with 22 units. With the increase of traffic, parking, everything. So.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Stacy Decker, and I live at 110 Hollis Street. And before I get started, I think there's a miscommunication here that this is affordable housing. At our neighborhood meeting, they discussed how each duplex, each side would be 500 and something thousand. I could be wrong. I think it was 575 for one side. So that's not affordable housing in my mind. It's also, it was owned for many, many years and very well taken care of. It was an old farmhouse, so there is no trash there. I lived parallel to the house, and there's no trash there. I have lived on Hollis Street since 1984. I raised my 2 daughters there. They were never able to ride their bikes or walk down the street to their friend's house because of the congestion and the traffic. I have now come full circle, and my grandchildren cannot ride their bikes or walk up or down the street. What used to be a hidden gem of a neighborhood is now a freeway. On any given day, we have tractor trailers from the Home Depot warehouse. We have drag races. We have 3-wheelers at all hours of the day and night in the Hollis Street and the Bunting Club. The neighborhood is heavily populated and very congested, and it seems like these developers just drop in with a total lack of concern for the neighbors. They've descended in the area in an effort to get in, build whatever they can, and line their pockets and leave, never to be seen again. We are never presented with improvements or any kind of plans for congestion, for sidewalks, for street lights, for traffic lights, or to reroute any traffic from that Home Depot warehouse. That never happens. It's always a massive building that's proposed that is way out of scope and sequence, or apartments, or more multifamily units that will only add to the congestion and the traffic in the neighborhood. It is never about improving the neighborhood. It's always about building. It's always about money. I'm all for progress, and I welcome new people to the neighborhood. We do have a great family neighborhood. We're all friends. We all know each other. We've all been there for decades, but not the duplexes. I wish this builder could put up 3 or 4 beautiful luxury homes and try improving the neighborhood instead of making it worse.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Fabio Betancourt. I live at 65 North Billerica Road, Tewksbury. I am basically the neighbor to the or the abutter to this project. Our concern, for my family's concern, is we have the water table in the back of our property is pretty low. With the stream that is alongside our home on the Lowell side, that is connected to the wetlands across the street. We've been there for 39 years, and we've dealt with excessive, basement damage within our cellar, water damage constantly. Our backyard always has a tendency to overflow. So with the concern of this new project going into place, how is that going to affect the water table for our property and for even this new location as well? As my neighbor Brenda mentioned, there is another property that's going to be going up on the Tewksbury side at 72 North Billerica Road, Tewksbury, and that there's just too much going on in a very specific area with just a lot of wetlands, and how that's going to affect the wetlands and the housing that's already there. We're fine with having some homes there, but just the amount of homes that they're planning on putting there is just, I believe, just too much. We're just really concerned, again, we're concerned on how that's going to affect the wetlands in the area and how it's going to affect all the neighboring housing there on Hollis Street and our homes as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Marin. I live at 109 Hollis Street. I am here tonight to address apprehensions about the proposed development on North Billerica Road, which abuts my property. Although I am not opposed to change or new development, I do have serious concerns about the ramifications to my property from the proposed development. The first concern I would like to address is the traffic situation. Hollis Street is a cut-through. It currently struggles with highly congested traffic issues during peak times such as morning, afternoon, and evening. It backs up on North Billerica Road, causing Hollis Street to also back up, sometimes to the point where one cannot even get out of their own driveway. This is complicated by tractor-trailer trucks using Hollis Street on a regular basis. When traffic stalls on Route 495, drivers seeking alternate routes also use Hollis Street. The situation is even more problematic due to residents on 2 apartment buildings located on North Billerica Road, adjacent to Hollis Street, using both sides of Hollis Street for residential parking. If the proposed development is planned to house 22 units, that would add a minimum of 44 cars with only one entrance in and one entrance out to access North Billerica Road. This would certainly complicate an already challenging situation, not to mention the safety concerns for the need of first responders in case of emergency. Are there any plans to mitigate the traffic issues for the residents on Hollis Street and North Billerica Road? Second, I would like to speak to my concerns about the water table in South Lowell. The proposed development will be located near or on wetlands. Many residents on Hollis Street already experience flooding and water damage to their basements during the spring thaw. Would the council consider requiring the developer to take proper steps to ensure storm water mitigation to protect existing residential property for further water damage in the future if they decide to build here? I've lived here over 40 years, and my son played in the backyard of 71 North Billerica Road, and that yard was always impeccable, and there has no there's no waste or anything thrown in that yard other than just recently. And the people on Hollis Street, we are like family, and we do care about other people getting a chance to build, to buy a home. But you know, at what cost at this time? We are taxpayers. We've been there for over 40 years. We're experienced all kinds of traffic on that road and no help to mitigate the problem. And every day, 2 years ago, someone took down all my shrubs in the front of my house because of the traffic that drives down that road like crazy. So I do feel bad for people that want to be able to buy a home, just like I was able to buy a home. But at what cost? You know, 22 units are far too many for that neighborhood. And the people, we struggle every day to try to get out of our driveway, and we do have double driveways. We don't park out on the street. We all have driveways. So I really respectfully ask you to consider these concerns before you take the vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cindy Smith. I live at Hollis Street, 25 Hollis Street, and I just want to voice that I've been there for 40 years, and I've had a couple of accidents right in front of my house. Somebody hit a pole because the street is crazy. I have an 8-car driveway. I don't know what she's talking about. I have a driveway on both sides. One holds 6 cars, one holds 4, and I don't park in the street, but down the other end of the road, you can't even get down there because the apartment buildings have tons of cars. It's just crazy. A couple of years ago, well, not a couple of years ago, maybe 15 years ago, I lost my husband. And back behind me, the church put a parking lot in with no drainage. And my cellar flooded at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't know what to do because they built the church. I wasn't against it, but they put no drainage in, and the building inspector allowed them to put a parking lot in with no drainage. So now I always wonder if my, my house is gonna flood again. So there's environmental, the wetlands back there. They're not supposed to build in the wetlands, and there's wetlands behind me, so I don't know how they're gonna put apartments there when it's all wetlands. They made them fence it off because they were encroaching more and more on the property back there. And they had them put a fence up. But that's wetlands. That's all wetlands back there. 2 houses down from me, they had a canoe. It was a joke. They had a canoe because their whole backyard flooded right up to the house and into a new addition that they put in. So, I mean, it's very wet back there. And for them to build all that housing, I'm worried about what's going to happen to my house. I live right there. And the traffic is unreal. You can't even, if you don't back into your driveway, you don't get out of your driveway. Between 6 and 8 in the morning or 6 and 9, it's nonstop traffic. I've had one of the officers back in my driveway and sit there and catch people speeding down the road and giving them tickets. He sat in mine and my neighbors for many days. He sat there and I said, you can back in because you wouldn't believe the traffic on this road. There was 2 accidents in front of my house. People hit the pole. I mean, it's busy, it's crazy. I don't know what she's talking about with, no traffic and people parking in the street. Down the other end of the road where Sharon lives, they're parked on both sides, the apartments. I'm fortunate to have a large driveway, but I made it like that. It's too much to have all that housing. And what are they going to do about the wetlands back there? You can't build on environmental wetlands. I had them come out, I forget the gentleman's name. They were doing dishes out there with running water and emptying the water, and I called the city, and they come out and they made them take their faucet out because that wasn't legal. But I mean, it's bad enough to have the church back there. They do have functions. They park down and around the corner because they don't have enough parking. And it's crazy. They park on the corner down the other end of my road where Bernier is. They park around the corner in the winter. The police don't do anything about it. People have gotten hit there. They put a rock up so that they can't take the corner, but the tractor trailers have dug into the pole on the corner of that street so many times that it looks like it's going to fall over. They replaced it once. I mean, it's too much traffic. Just, I don't know what else to say about it, but it's crazy. I'm not against it, but 22 units in the wetlands back there, is my cellar going to flood again? My neighbor's cellar going to flood again? My neighbor over here, her cellar, she's across the street, and hers flooded. There's wetlands, and it's just crazy. 22 units is not the thing to do. So, that's it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Barbara Stewart. I've lived on Hollis Street for over 45 years. I can't say much. Everybody has said it all. The traffic is incredible. What they're selling these houses on, what I'm hearing, is ridiculous because that's not low-income housing. The pole she's talking about is right in front of my house. It's been hit 3 times because in the winter, I'm on an angle, like it comes in. So when the traffic is coming back and forth, they cut in and they hit the pole. There's been a head-on collision in front of my house 2 years ago because they can't make that bend. I sat one day, 26 cars went by for me to get out of the driveway because when there's an accident up on 495, they're all cutting through. So I don't know. I can't see this happening because there'll be like 44 more cars up there going through. They have a big thing out there now measuring the traffic. The sign, how fast they're going.
Oh, the speed limit thing, yeah.
It's doing no good. They're speeding up just to see how fast they're going. I had a sign in front of my house, 25 miles an hour. Somebody ran over it. So you know what? It's not helping. And more traffic? Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
We would like to get speed bumps too because of the traffic, and they I don't know, they just won't tell us that they can't do that, but, I mean, you should come sit in my driveway and watch the traffic, it's ridiculous. And I've been here 40 years, and we saw 2, 3 accidents the past few years.
Anybody else like to speak?
I just want to say, because of traffic, you're going to deny 22 families a home.
Hold on a minute. Let's see. Okay. Wait a minute. Hold on. So this is a zoning change. Anything to do with the traffic comes back before us for what's called site plan. Okay? And what everybody's talking about the wetlands, okay? The notes that we got from planning and development in City of Lowell here is the conceptual plan shows that a significant amount of work will take place within the FEMA 100-year floodplain, okay? Or the 100-foot buffer zone of a bordering wetland. So that would have to require Conservation Commission approval. So if they go into conservation and says you can't build there, and they have to come back, so there could be a possibility that it'd be downscaled to begin with. So when a zoning change, we're not voting for whether they're putting in 22 houses or not. Okay? We can't address the traffic, we can't address the wetlands, we can only address whether we go along with the zoning change. And the conceptual plan, those are non-binding. As I said at the previous public hearing, once we change the zoning, they can take that conceptual plan and totally change it and come back with something else. We don't know. They're not bound by this plan at all. We have no idea if this plan will come back before us or not. Do we approve do we make a recommendation to the city council for the zone change, or we don't? Period. And our recommendation is non-binding. Doesn't matter what we say, the city council vote. So I'm saying all the issues that would come up, like when you talk, like when we get the comments, right? All the city departments on the zoning change say we have no comments now. On a site plan, okay, everybody, engineering would have comments, fire department have comments, the police department have comments, engineering have comments. At this time, they don't say anything because it's just a zone change. When they come in to build the houses, that's when triggers the site plan, which is all the 7 departments in the city get copies of the zone, get copies of the plan, then they recommend if it goes forward. Whether they develop it as a zone as it is now and put in fewer houses, or if the zoning gets approved by the council and they put in more. And if they have wetlands, maybe they'll need a lot less. So we're not voting on 22 houses. Just make that perfectly clear from the start. We just vote on whether there should be a zone change. And what comes back, if the zone change is approved, it would come back to us for site plan, because anything more than 3 buildings in one lot, or if they don't get the site plan approval, I'm sure they'll come back in with some other plan. And how many houses will go on that will be determined, because they also need setback from the street and everything else. And so, do they have wetlands? Yes, we all know that. Well, can that reduce the amount of units? Absolutely. And, you know, and how conservation would make sure there's no additional runoff. So when you have a new plan comes in, they're not allowed to have any more runoff that's there now. They cannot increase the runoff. And that's what the conservation would look at. That's what the engineering would look at. And the traffic, we would get a report from the applicant, whoever they come in, they'd have to give us the traffic analysis, and then our city traffic engineer would have to make a recommendation to us if that recommendation was good or not. So a lot of the things that have been brought up would come back before us on site plan, whether the site under zoning gets approved or not, because most likely, something's gonna be built there eventually. Whether, I know that, I'm just saying, something's gonna come back before us sooner or later, and then we would have recommendations from the transportation engineer, we'd have the project management team, we'd have the building department comments, and everybody else. So I'm just letting you know that we know about all the wetlands, we know what the recommendation is, and we're saying, you know, people saying they want less units. If they have wetlands there, they might not get the 22 units in, even if the zone change does go through by the council. So, so a lot of it that's being talked about today with the traffic and the water would come back to site plan. So, but I'm sorry? Well, 2 questions. Yeah, in any zone that abuts another zone, as we have a letter here from the city solicitor's office, says it's not a spot zoning. Spot zoning is when you take one zone and drop it in the middle of some other zone. So whenever you want to extend the zone, we get a letter saying it's not a spot zone. So, and I'm sorry, they can. I said just because they're basically just all the street is zoned duplexes. Because it abuts it, yeah. So they want to extend it over. Oh, I'm sorry, it abuts it, so it extends it over. Yeah, and it goes down to Bernier Street where Delmont Gardens is and comes up and, yeah. I understand that. And. So how can you justify? Well, we're not, because this isn't what we're approving. If our city engineer, if our traffic engineer comes back and says, this is no way acceptable, and they came back before us in the site plan, so what they're saying here doesn't make a difference. This isn't what we're voting on. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of issues if they come back with this plan. We get it. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah, and whoever moves in, yeah. Yeah, and people who own this lot, I bet, pay taxes too. Right? Yeah. Yeah, yeah, but they still pay it. Yeah. I mean, so anybody else? Yes, Councilman, go back to you.
Oh, I thought someone was behind me.
Huh?
Did you have a question for me?
No, I said, anything did you want to say? I saw you come to the microphone.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a statement with respect to a zoning change, and I did bring up the master plan. The zoning ordinance for the city is something that should be able to continue to reform and align with community needs. And we know from the top down that housing is one of them. And we see that this complies with extending a 2-family zone into this district, and it's a logical extension of it. What lies before us down the road, we don't know. We know we have to deal with conservation. We know we don't have a right to create a development on our property that's going to harm another property. We know we can't do that. But that's something that is going to involve further engineering, and that's down the road. That's not before us today. What is before us today is to allow this zoning extension recommendation to go forward, to recognize that we need additional housing, and to recognize that this is a logical extension of the two-family zone. That's where we're at. And another major factor of this is to consider a major factor that they do under the statute, and the law department did as well, is the size of this parcel. It's a 3.5-acre parcel, and we'd be hard-pressed to find an undeveloped parcel in the city of Lowell that's 3.5 acres. So we would also, from a development point of view, be creative to use to its highest and best use. And this is why we brought this before you, and this is why we've made this recommendation for a zoning extension. And we ask for your support.
Dan,
Yep. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry, did anybody else still want to speak in opposition? No? Okay. Anybody else further want to speak? No. Okay. So that part of the hearing is closed. At this point, I'll turn it over to the board members. Do they have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I
Sure,
may.
we'll start with Mr. Fischett.
You know, the petitions that were before us this evening, I thought were difficult, and it's not clear cut. And I just want to clarify, one of the speakers speaking in favor said, this would be better than, big apartment building on the site. It's a traditional single-family zone. You can't build an apartment building on the site.
No, we never said we were.
No, but one of the speakers said that, so.
Yeah, there are.
I just want to clarify that.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all. I just want to make it clear. So everybody, if you're speaking in favor, you understand why you're speaking in favor. And if you're speaking against it, you understand why you're speaking against it. So I think if we're all educated more about what we've got before us, it's a better discussion and a better debate. That's all, Counselor. And then in the packet, everybody could have found this online, City Council, at the city website, is an analysis of the lot sizes. So this was, this wasn't like the prior petition where it was kind of split, right? So the land use around there, Hollis Street, obviously, a lot of two families, right? And on Barica Road, single families. But not one of the lot sizes was smaller than the traditional single-family lot size. So right now, the current zoning, you could have a 7,000 square foot lot. Every single lot that was identified by DPD is 7,000 square feet or larger. The traditional two-family lot size is 6,000 square feet, which you're asking to reduce the size. So when I'm looking at the big picture with the zoning change, right? What's the development pattern, right? I tell you what I'm thinking, okay, what I'm looking at it. So it's the same formula every time. So what's the development pattern in the area? What does it look like? So the lots are all over 7,000 square feet. This zone change you're asking for is to reduce it to 6,000. There's no lots around there that were identified by DPD that's that size. Oddly enough, Counselor, please. Oddly enough, the use of the two-family, there's plenty of examples around there that are close to that. So, right? So we've got the use as examples that you want to change it to, but the lot sizes are certainly smaller than the use of two families on Hollis Street. Now, I got this bugaboo of the ADUs all the time now, because traditional single-family zone, what does it mean? Builder wants to put 9,000 square foot apartment, and there's no requirement to have either the homeowner live there at all, so they can be two-family rentals. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating. I think we need to look at the whole zoning ordinance and everything else. The comments from DPD, God bless, but we could use that in every single proposed now housing development here in the city of Lowell. So is the idea to upzone the city from one border to the next? So I get it. We need housing. I can tell you the abutting towns aren't embracing that. We had somebody speak from Tewksbury, and I was at another meeting where a member of the planning board said they want to try to avoid any spillage from Lowell. So, we're embracing it, unlike the abutting communities. So, once again, my colleagues convinced me on the last petition, because I think it was really up in the air. But I really have to tell you, I really have some difficulty with this. And I can understand, what's being proposed, and I can appreciate that, right? Because one of the questions is, well, you want a zone change, what is it you have in mind? But it always muddies the discussion of a zoning change when they put a proposed development in front of you, Because believe me, I went on a Sunday morning, I had a hard time turning around at the intersection with Hollis Street, and I actually ditched into the Bunting Club because, cars were coming in and out like crazy off of the main road, which I was shocked. I don't hang around that neighborhood, to be honest with you, so I didn't know that. But be that as it may, there's some development that should take place on that property, all right? It's underutilized, and, you would have to deal with the wetlands and all of the land use boards, whether it be traditional single-family or whether it be the traditional two-family. I do like the concept of condexes, but at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be condexes. What happens is you're asking for us to reduce the lot size. At the end of the day, you're asking us to reduce the lot sizes to 6,000 square feet.
At these parcels, there are, and they pointed it out, DPD did point it out, that there are four lots on this proposed plan, on our plan, that are 8,000 square feet. The remaining lots, 5 through 11, the smallest lot out of those is 10,757 square feet.
So this is the conundrum.
So
right?
the majority of these lots are well over 10,500 square feet. So these are not undersized lots. We're not asking for going
But
down.
that's what the zoning change is asking for, Counselor. See, that's the thing. That's what the zoning change. And I want to heighten the discussion and heighten the debate so that we're
understand
talking
that.
about it from a knowledgeable perspective. That's what's being asked, is that we reduce the lot sizes in the zoning. So I understand that's what's in the development, proposed development, that's not what's before us at all. So, so that's I really have some difficulty with the ask, but I like the concept of the condexes. So, with that, I've said my piece. I want to hear what my colleagues have to say.
And
Thank you.
the only thing I have to offer to that is they use the term middle housing, and that's in the master plan, and that's what they want to have us developers promote, is the middle housing, and that's what we propose to do here. Now, if down the road they go ahead and develop this as single-family homes, that opens up the problem of the ADUs that they put there as a matter of right, which from a point of view, an aesthetic point of view, would not be very nice. Necessary to people, but it would be a much better development when you have the proposed,
Well, Counselor, I think a conscientious developer can build ADUs that look very, very nice. That's not the issue. It's just it's the lot, obviously the lot size, but I think we have greater parking requirements with the two-family zone than you would have with the extra ADU unit. This gets very complicated. So,
and that's a major hurdle down the road.
Oh, I understand.
A major hurdle down the road, along with conservation.
So I'm just bringing you into the struggle in my head, Counselor.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all I'm doing. Okay, thank you.
Caleb?
So I'm looking at development pattern, and I just recognize the smaller lot requirement, but at the same time, Hollis Street is clearly two-family, dominated by two-family housing. So I think at least on that part, I'm convinced that this is a fitting zoning change of just moving the border onto the other end, and notwithstanding that the wetland is on the far end of this lot, so they're not like separated by wetland from Hollis Street development. So I can see that the zoning being extended to the other side of this lot makes sense. As the wetland, actually the stream actually is this will be make it the south side and then to the west. So which will shield the SMF district from the denser development. So so that's my take. I see this as reasonable, but I do have concern about the small lot size, and I understand that the current mock-up right now is reasonably sized, comparable to what is on Hollis Street, but with the possibility that whatever come back for site plan could be smaller. So I have that concern as well. As far as traffic go, we're not addressing it here, but it seems like from what I heard from the neighbors, those are existing problems. So regardless of where this land even get developed, you still have that problem. So I will encourage you to speak with the city councilors that representing your district and also at large to really push for something to be done. The city responsible to address those issues, particularly with the high traffic that you mentioned. There's a threshold where they need to, like, they could put traffic lights at the pinch point, and also like what you mentioned about speed tables, other traffic calming measures. Now, whether that work with the circulation of the traffic, that's up to the traffic engineer, but you really need to push the city councilor to do that job if you have this problem since however times many years ago. So I think that is apart from this, even though this will exacerbate it. So whatever this development come back, I'm going to be pay really close attention to the traffic study regardless, but that alone won't solve your problem. You need to talk to the city councilor. So as far as this zoning amendment, so I'm more on the supportive side because of the two-family pattern. So that's where I stand.
Thank you, Caleb. Danny?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm on the opposite side. I appreciate Caleb's, Member Chang's comments. I would say the same thing as far as speaking with the councilors regarding traffic, regarding speed bumps, regarding steps that Member Chang had mentioned. There may be measures that can be taken by the council to work on that. I do know it's a cut-through street. I've used it as a cut-through street. If I'm going to Barica or if I'm going to Tewksbury, you know, I'll jump off Woburn Street and head down through it. So I get it. There are a lot of parked vehicles on that street, and you're zigzagging in and out. What I'm troubled with is this is meaningless. All right, I'm going to emphasize what Chairman Linehan mentioned, what Member Frechette and Member Chang indicated. This doesn't mean anything right now. It's a conceptual plan. What we're voting on is do we want to allow the lot sizes to be smaller? I'm on a no. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Could I make one comment, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
The lot sizes are 8,000 square feet, which is the minimum requirement is 8,000. And our lots, as I said before, there are only 4 lots in this that are 8,000 square feet. The
Yeah,
rest
but
are,
what they're saying is that's on your conceptual plan, but that's not what's
exactly.
before us.
That's on the conceptual plan, but we
Right.
talked about.
So we don't know. Like Jerry said, they're being reduced down to 6,000, right? So you're looking for a reduction in lot sizes, is what the zoning request is, a reduction of lot sizes. That's what's before us, period. No
Well,
matter how you slice it, right?
the traditional single-family is 7,000 square feet, is the minimum lot area. In the TTF, the minimum lot area is 8,000 square feet. So that's what would be requested.
Councilor, TTF is 6,000 square feet.
Okay, my plan here, I got
The
7.
TTF is 6, right?
Yes.
What's there now is the,
I'm looking at the zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
Right now it's TSF.
Dimensional table.
yeah, and the TSF, Jerry, what it says on that.
Yeah.
So TSF is what?
TSF is 7,000 square feet.
7,000.
Yeah.
7,000 square feet.
Yes.
TSF, traditional single-family, traditional
7,000.
two-family is 6,000.
So you're going down 1,000,
Right.
okay.
Which we have not proposed. But it doesn't mean anything because it's a conceptual plan.
Right. And there's not a lot identified in the area that's below 7,000 square feet. So
No.
that's what that's.
No, there is
Again,
not.
that's,
There-
I'm looking at the development pattern, that's all, Counselor.
But the lots on Hollis Street are all primarily 8,000 square feet for the.
Correct, they're 8,800 square feet, 80, yeah,
Yeah.
they're bigger than the
They're
7,000.
bigger than the 7,000.
But they're not as big as the suburban single-family, so they fall right in between.
Right.
Yep,
Yeah.
correct.
So they're looking to reduce it from the 7,000 square foot lot to a 6,000. Right? Yeah, from the TSF to the TT.
And then to change it from single-family to two-family by right. But again, after February with the ADUs, you can do that, but you can't make it into a condex.
No,
Right?
no,
Well,
we
that's the
can't.
other thing, so let me bring it further into my head here. So it gets more complicated, because then if we stay with this, and the developer wants to go with the 7,000 square foot lots and put an ADU, then he can't make them condexes, so then it has to be sold as a two-family. And it can be either owner-occupied with, help to provide some income to pay the mortgage, or they can build, when we talk about middle housing, suburban single-families, lots are 7,000 square feet. Those are smaller, more affordable single-family homes. Do we want to promote that? The condexes are a nice concept, don't get me wrong. So what I'm just saying is it's not a perfect.
It's difficult,
Yeah.
but from the management of this private road, to have it as an association would be the preferable way to manage this. And not with, where we couldn't do a condex. So that's a problem down the road, whereas we have it as an association with the two-family townhouses.
Right.
Then we have a management. We can set it up for private pickup.
Yeah.
We can build a private road to the road standards, which is expensive, and have the association manage it. That's kind of where we went with this plan, this concept plan. That management is important. It's important to the homeowners. It's important to the city because they don't have to service it. And it's important to the abutters. If there's a problem in their backyards for flooding, the abutters have an ability to go after the homeowners association. And that's another important matter.
No, there's not, like I said, it's just, the more I think it through, it's just not a clear cut, which direction do you want to go in?
But is
I think
the
there's.
public welfare severely harmed by the extension? That's what we have to,
Well, I think it's more of what's the development pattern do we want to see? And again, it's a non-binding recommendation that we're giving. It's non-binding.
But that's what the statute looks at.
Right.
How does it derogate the neighborhood? Is it
Well, no, and that's why we have.
welfare? Is it a detriment to the public welfare?
Yeah,
The
but.
statute looks to that.
Yeah, Counselor, that's true, but we're also looking at, and every right to apply that, is what type of development pattern do we want to see? And what, and these aren't suburban, we're not going from suburban single-family at 10,000 square foot lots, we're going to build what we think are sprawling mansions here in the city. This is a traditional single-family zone right now, where maybe we could be more affordable single families. Maybe you could give an argument, we'd have some single families with a rental apartment. Well, now that adds to the middle housing as well, and you could have it be owner occupied, there's no requirement. Or do we do with a two-family? It's not a clear cut. It's not clear cut. It's just what direction do you want to go in? And I just want to make sure we all understand what the thought process is. It's just not easy. I don't think none of these, I think on the surface it looked like some of these this evening were easy, but I don't think they were.
It looks easy because it looks like an extension.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't, from a legal perspective, Counselor, it meets the definition of extending the zone. And nobody argues that. We got a decision from the law department on that. Absolutely. But that's one box that you check, okay, it's not spot zoning, and then we can move on. Otherwise, it doesn't even move on from the solicitor's office if it's spot zoning. So, all right, I just, again, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
No, that's quite all right. That's great. No, I think you explained everything in detail. I mean, it's, the bottom line is, if you change the zone, you reduce the square foot, the zoning from 7,000 to 6,000 is the bottom line, square feet, yeah. So,
Well, again, Mr. Chairman, it gets more complicated than that, though.
Yeah,
Because they want to come up with a.
But it's also, it's 4,000 square feet per dwelling unit. So it would have to be 8,000 square feet.
If you're going to do the two, the traditional two-family, land area per dwelling unit, 6,000 square foot, land area per dwelling unit. Well, land area per dwelling unit is 4,000. No, traditional, for one family, all others is 4,000, so yeah, it would be 8,000 to do a two-family.
Yeah, so we're actually,
That's a good, okay, again, that's why I want to have these discussions, so that was a good pickup. So, again, just for clarification, right? The lot size is 6,000 square feet, but lot area per dwelling unit is 6,000. If you want to put 2 units,
4,000.
it's 4,000. If you want to put 2 units, you have to have an 8,000 square foot lot. Okay. So that, honestly, that
increases.
Increases.
yeah.
It increases from the 7,000, and with the 7,000, if you kept it at the traditional single-family, you could still put an ADU, and you could have an apartment on 7,000 square feet. Now, if he wants to do the condexes, it has to be 8,000 square feet.
Right. And we could not, if we, with the zoning change, we
Yeah.
can't do an ADU.
That's correct. You just convinced me, Counselor. That's what did it for me. That's what did it for me. Yeah, because the lot has to be.
Bigger.
The lot has to be, and again, it's clear what I don't take all the other white noise into account. This is very straightforward, but I missed that. Shame on me, I did miss that. So, and it's lot area per dwelling unit. So every dwelling unit, you have to have at least 4,000 square feet, which makes it, so in other words, if you wanted to build a single family, you could build a single family on 6,000 square feet.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got that?
You understand?
Yeah, it's on the dimensional table here.
Yeah, but what does it say for two-family?
So a two-family, if you wanted to do a two-family, or by units, you have to, each unit, you have to have 4,000 square feet. So if you're going to build 2 units, the lot size has to be 8,000 square feet.
So why does the zoning table say less?
Well, that is because if you were to have, if you were going to build a single family in the traditional two-family, you could do it on 6,000 square feet. But if you want to build the 2 units, you have to have 8,000 square feet.
So the zoning code is set up not to have 2 families in a 2-family zone?
Well, it's saying that if you want to have two-family, it has to be a little bit larger because it allows, it takes into account, and I should not have missed this, to be honest with you. I'm glad this discussion kept going on because that.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, so clearly that makes more sense why the plan is submitted the way it's submitted. That's why you have to have 8,000 square feet. Now it makes sense. No. So, I honestly, if they're going to build the 2 families, the lots will be bigger than what the zoning allows right now for a single family in which you could put an ADU, accessory dwelling apartment, which would have less parking requirement. It's just the thought process, gentlemen, that's all it is.
Really?
Yeah.
That's wild.
That's not what we're discussing here this evening.
They could, or they
Yeah,
it's up to them.
Yeah, no, it's whether or not, again, it's whether or not that's an appropriate zoning change that's being requested. And again, that was my biggest concern, was the lot sizes, the uses. Again, I think after February, with this whole idea of ADUs, I like the idea of condexes because it is owner occupied, but there's no guarantee you're going to do that. All right, there's no guarantee, and I want to make that clear. Yep, so, all right, thank you.
So in substance, changing it, they could put single families in
On 6,000.
on 6,000 square feet
And still put ADU.
with
and
an
still
ADU.
put the ADU.
Yeah.
Right. If they want the two-family, they need 8,000, 4 feet.
And if,
Oh, no, not in the two-family zone.
Oh, not in the
Not in the
two-family
two-family zone.
Not in the
That's correct.
two-family zone.
Not in the
Oh, that's
two-family zone.
right.
Only in a single family.
In a
By right,
single-family
in a
zone.
single-family
Yep.
zone.
Single-family, 6,000 square feet would allow for an ADU as a matter of right.
But that's at the city,
I see.
that's at the state level.
okay,
This would- this-
all right, but in changing it to the two-family, you can have a 6,000 square foot lot, but you can't have more than one unit. Is that what you're saying?
Correct, that is correct.
Okay. Interesting.
So if he puts through what he's proposing, it'll be,
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to have less.
but yeah, so the lots, he'll have to be over 8,000, where if you leave it
Yeah.
the same now, it's 7.
Yeah.
So this makes it that he'll have to put in less units than if he left it as is.
Right, it would be crazy.
So for the zoning nerds out there, this was a good discussion, so, it was. So, yeah, I wish I had actually picked that up initially,
Okay, so-
because, yeah.
So we have to make a recommendation to the council, whether positive or negative to change the zoning. What's the request of the board?
I make a motion to submit a positive recommendation to the city council for this proposed zoning amendment.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Any opposition? Hearing none, the zoning change recommendation to the council is in favor. You have a date before the council? Next week?
Next, you wanna go next?
It should be next
Yeah.
week.
It's usually the week after us.
Can we do it next Tuesday, Peter?
Well,
We usually send them to the clerk's office tomorrow morning, and
Because
they
I know
usually
this-
schedule
So it
them.
would
yeah,
be the
it's
week,
usually the week after us.
The week
If it's not
after.
scheduled already. Because
Okay.
this morning, the paper, it was already advertised for the Westford Street one before the council next week.
so that was advertised.
Yeah, I saw it this morning.
So ours wouldn't be this Tuesday then?
Should be, you should check, it could be on the council
Okay.
agenda already. Because they get it first, they refer it to us, then it goes back to them. And
Okay.
9 out of 10 times, they're always the week after us.
Initially, I thought it was.
Yeah,
I
it
thought
usually
it
is, but I'll
was.
double check. So basically what happens now, it goes to the city council, they make the final vote, it's indicating our recommendation is not binding, and it'll be up to the council whether to change the zoning or leave it as is. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate everybody
I
coming down.
thank the members of the board for their time tonight. Thank you.
Good.
Can public speak during that
Yes.
zoning?
Yeah, oh, yeah. It's a public hearing.
They start those at, they start.
Okay, because mine's de-shaped off.
Yeah, I know how to get you anyway.
Okay, moving along on the agenda, we have the planning board to elect a new board officers. So we have to vote for chairperson, vice chair. Usually we do a second vice chair. Then we do NEMCOG and historic board. Right? I believe that's how we do it. Okay. So first up would be nomination of officers for chairperson.
Mr. Chairman, I'll nominate Thomas Lenahan as the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries, and thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. For vice chair, I'll nominate Mr. Fischett as our vice chair.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you.
And that carries, four in favor, none against.
Thank you.
For second vice chair, I will recommend Caleb.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Chair votes yes on that, as indicated. For NEMCOG, Jerry's been on there long enough, like to see him stay there.
I'm still the treasurer, by the way. I just elected treasurer.
Unless Dan wants us to jump in.
Nope.
Okay.
The rope bridge, though. Oh, the freaking bridge.
So I recommend Mr. Fischett. Do we have a second?
Second.
And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's for nothing. So I know on the historic board right now, I know all the other board members are on boards. I know Caleb was considered for a period of time, but I know he has a second child on the way. He's concerned about time restraints. So I've been on it for many years in the past. I was going to make a recommendation that we hold off on that one until maybe we get a new board member, if so. Because as you know, we're down we're down 2 alternates and 1 full board member. So hopefully if we get 1, 2, or 3 on the board member, then maybe we'll consider that one. I know that they have a pretty good quorum of board members on the historic board now, by speaking with Mr. Stoll. And he indicated that he knew some people that were applying to get on our planning board.
Oh, good.
So hopefully if somebody new comes on, we can recommend them before they know what's happening.
That should be a condition, that should be a condition of them accepting.
So when I start on that board, that's how I end up on 3 committees. I just sat there and all of a sudden, boom, 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 and I'm like, what just happened? And they said, show up next week, and the next week, and the week after. So at this point, we'll leave that spot open unless anybody really wants to jump in on that one. So, but having said that, do we have any further discussion from board members? If not, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Chair votes yes. We have adjourned. Good night, and thank you, everybody.